Here. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Free Friday coaching call. We have this call the first and third Fridays of every month, and it's partly mindset, partly skill set for real estate. And how this call came about is I hate saying my late husband, so I'm just going to say my husband, Rick. Up until he passed away last October, over his 43 years in real estate, he spent close to 30 of those as a top trainer, speaker, coach, and mentor in the real estate industry. And everywhere he'd go, he'd give people his phone number and say, call me for anything you need. And when he passed, 36,000 contacts in his phone. And let's just say lots of people were calling him. So he put this call together several years ago as a way to be able to have a one-to-many conversation and make sure that he was adding and creating value to all of his friends all around the world. And so we've kept it going in his honor and his legacy as a commitment to continue to learn and grow together in the industry and collaborate and be one, be one, because selling real estate, let's be honest, can be like being on an island sometimes. Because you're working for yourself and sometimes you are working by yourself. So we like to bring people together and continue to learn and collaborate and grow and become all better together. So that's a little bit about the history of this call. Every call is different. It's a different topic. We interview different people that are standing out for results that they've created and an identity that they've created in the market space. And so today I'm very excited to have the guest on that we have today. Before we jump into having her tell a little bit about her story and her background, what I want to say about this woman is that I remember Rick talking about her for so many years before I actually ever met her. And he always had such incredible things to say about her. He would say, she's a leader. She's internally motivated. She has such a servant's heart and a huge heart. She's got an incredible work ethic. She's diligent. She's an amazing mentor and coach. And most importantly, she walks the talk that she talks. And he said, one day we're gonna work together again, because they had met and worked together during his time at Keller Williams Realty, where she was an agent as well. And so gratefully, a handful of years ago, we got the opportunity to work more closely together, and she's with us on the call today. So a little bit about her before she gets into her personal story, which I'm going to have her tell. Is she's close to 20 years in real estate. She's had several leadership positions, including a leadership position at the Oklahoma Association of Realtors, a distinguished board director of the Oklahoma Metropolitan Association of Realtors. She had a regional leadership position with Keller Williams Realty when she was with that brokerage, and Agent Leadership Council for KW Green Meadows. She serves on the board of directors for NAREP, and she's been appointed to the Agent Leadership Council for eXp Realty in Oklahoma. She is a two-time Icon Award winner, which is a very significant thing based on production, because it means essentially she can earn all of the cap that she pays back and really maximize the net of what her business is creating. And she's currently the president-elect of the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Association of Realtors. So we're going to get more into specifics on her story, but as you can see, over her 20 years, she has dedicated herself to her craft, and so has an incredible amount of credibility that we'll bring to the conversation today. So without further ado, I want to welcome Vanessa to the call, and Vanessa Johnson to the call. And let's back up now for everybody that might be meeting you for the first time. And I know many of the people on the call have no idea about your story, how you got into real estate, why you moved 9 times in a short period of years. And so we can get to know you a little bit before we jump into our actual topic today. We'd love to hear that story.
So it was really crazy, because I'm a social worker, and I was a social worker when my husband was playing ball, and then I had my son, and I backed off from work, and then what happens in the NFL, he got hurt, and we didn't have an income, and I didn't want to gobble up his retirement. So I said, I can do this. Let's figure out something that I can do. And of course, it wasn't in social work. So I got my real estate license, and I caught the bug. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed meeting new people. And then was building the business, and of course the money was great, and it was 2005 and things were rolling in, and I really got the bug bad, and I just said I can take care of my family, and I just did it. And about 2012, I was like, I'm tired. I want to quit. This is hard. I got, so I created a team, and then my team started doing the same thing, and we started doing great. And I kept thinking, I can't just keep outproducing myself and outproducing myself. I've got to figure out ways to leverage and do things. And so I did figure out some leverage ways, and I started at a different brokerage, and it's been great. But I started getting not this complacency. It wasn't complacency, because I don't think I've ever been complacent. I think it was like I needed to do more than for myself and for my family. I wanted to figure out, because real estate gave so much to me, how to preserve our profession. And so that's how I started going into advocacy work. Advocacy is now one of the primary things that keeps me going. So if you're passionate about something, that's where you start really showing, like, okay, whatever makes you cry is what you should be doing every day, right? So it makes me cry when I see young realtors struggle. It makes me cry when I see people leave the business because they can't get a part of their motivation, like get where they're coming from, or their discipline, or anything that they have, that it makes me sad when people don't grasp their potential. And when the business is working against you, like it is right now, it's really hard. And I try and figure out ways to help it get a little easier for the people around me. I don't want to cry, but I want to say that Rick was he was a coach to me in 2009, but he's the first person who taught me about how to work on myself, and how to work on, because I was having an issue with making money. And he was like, let's talk about it. That's something that's really crazy. Nobody ever said that was going to be a stopping point for me. But he taught me the value of valuing myself, and learning how to love myself, and learning how to see my value in everything, not just in real estate. So, like, he says this about you, Casey, and this is how I felt about him. He saw way more in me than I saw in myself. And those things, and the things that he said, were so pivotal in me continuing to push myself. Does that make sense? So it was this coaching call, being on here. The last time I was on this coaching call, with him. And I got real emotional this morning, because I was thinking all the things that I have achieved and he doesn't know about. But he was one of my people that I called when I did something, and I'd lost my dad and my brother within 3 months, and then not 6 months later lost Rick. So it was a really big growth moment for me, to learn why was I really doing this? Was I really doing it for the accolades and for the things and for the attention, or was I really doing it because it was something that I loved? And so I found out that the advocacy portion of it was something that I loved, and it was a great thing. But I give honor to Rick, because he did light up my life like he did yours. I know.
Yeah. You would always say, out of our deepest wounds come our greatest gifts.
Right.
And so clearly you've been on a journey of 20 years of a career. And you and I had the opportunity to catch up earlier in the week. And we're talking about the fact that in the 20 years that you've been in the business, this is the third time, like in a window of time, that it is not a walk in the park. I think your exact words were, you're doing 3 times the amount of work for a third of the amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Is what you said. And yet, here you are. So what I love about that is that if you look at making a decision to go into business for yourself, choosing the field of real estate where no one's going to tell you how much you're worth, because you will determine your own personal value based on your work ethic and the value that you hold yourself in, which is a journey in and of itself sometimes, right? Like sometimes
Mhm.
we feel like, oh, if I just, give it away and just keep giving it away, which also equates not necessarily valuing yourself at times, then, what's that balance versus no, I really value myself. And so now things are coming to me in a different way. And then there's things that are outside, completely outside of your control, like what's going on in the market and what's going on with interest rates and what's going on, in the global climate and all the different variables that none of us have any control over. But at the end of the day, when you look at the last 20 years, what you've done is you've developed a muscle that has continued to strengthen as the outside world changes. And, I think I hear a lot of times people say, oh, well, stress is bad. Stress will kill you. Stress is not good for your health. And that's absolutely not true. If you think about going to the gym and working out, you have to stress a muscle to create micro tears in that muscle to get it moving and growing and strengthening it. And so stress is imperative to growth because without having the stressor, there is no growth, there is no catalyst to change. And most people do not have an internal driver that will force themselves to continue to grow and change when things are comfortable and great on the exterior. Oftentimes it comes from the environment or things changing outside of us that causes that stress or that catalyst to go like, oh man, it's time for me to work 3 times as hard as I've been working for a third of the amount of the money. And then what happens during that time is this muscle that gets built, and now you're in your third experience of that over the last 20 years. And because of that, you will come out the other end of this window of time a newer version of you, a more resilient version of you, a more influential version of you. And as you've mentioned, these stressors have actually helped you find a piece of where your passion is at. So I know that you have demonstrated discipline outside of your business life and what you've done with your body. You've created, I know you competed in a fitness competition and just what it takes from the discipline of eating and training over a period of time to prep and get ready for something like that. You've created these disciplines in different areas. And I always say skill sets are transferable. So what you do in one area spreads into other areas as well, right? So you go train your body and you have that kind of discipline in your body. It's absolutely going to trickle over into your business and vice versa. So one of the things that I know that we wanted to dive in today were two main kind of focus areas, and one is this conversation around discipline and what that specifically looks like in your business, and for agents, whether they're new agents or seasoned agents in this season of being in real estate, what some of those disciplines look like and how they're serving you, and then we'll jump into the advocacy piece as well. But let's start off with the discipline piece because I think this is like so important for entrepreneurs. So many entrepreneurs get into business for themselves because we want freedom and flexibility, and yet that only comes with discipline. And
Mhm.
so the structure of working for someone else, somebody gives you that structure, and so it's a forced discipline. But as entrepreneurs, we don't have forced discipline. We're left to our own devices. So I would love to hear from you, like, tell us about this, about discipline, how you've developed it, how you've built on it, how you've strengthened it over the years.
So I really feel like that's one of my strong suits because once you start to see the consistency of showing up every day in the mundane activities, like that's the really hard part because, right, motivation will get you through the moment and then it's kind of fleeting, but discipline is the consistency that stays every day. And that's what's really hard to key into. I was motivated for a very long time to make money for my family, but then that motivation kind of we were comfortable, we were doing good, it was great, but really what it was discipline. It was those little habits and the little things that I was doing every day. And I get tickled. I don't know if my son's on the call or not, but it keeps me accountable because he was my big why for a very long time. And then I was like, you know what, he's doing good and he's in the business and works with me, but like actually being who I say I am. And Rick said something to me a very long time ago, and he said a lot of somethings to me, but one thing that stuck was when you when you tell yourself you're going to do something, you better do it, because if you don't, it kills it kills your inner being. Like, it literally self-sabotages you, and it eats away at your the word is, what's the word? It eats away at your what is the word?
What he would say to me is it eats away at your self-esteem.
Self-esteem. That's it. It eats away at your self-esteem. Somebody asked me the other day, how do you get up and go work out every day? And I said, because if I don't go work out, then I've lied to myself, and I don't need any more nicks in my self-esteem, because we're all right. We're all tremendously flawed, and it doesn't. But that stuck with me. And when I saw that YouTube of him talking about that, I can remember just going like, I gotta be who I say I am. And so when I say those things, especially about, lead generating, it's really tough. I can be in here, and Cheryl is the ultimate lead generator. If you haven't met Cheryl Lister, she's going at it every day. And she will say, today, I don't feel like doing it. And I go, well, then I'm here today to tell you that you need to do it, because like, she was talking to me, and I'm like, because she's the ultimate person who just gets it done. And she really motivates me to do it. And I go, okay, it's those little tasks and everything that I know I don't want to do, but I have to do them because I say I'm going to do them. And I really don't need any more nicks in my self-esteem. I don't. And that's what keeps me doing this every day. Plus, I know my son's watching me, so he is going to keep me accountable. And when he says, man, I just love to see you just lay back in bed and watch Netflix, I'm like, and I feel guilty about it. And he's like, I like to see you chill out. And I'm like, but I don't want to be that for you, because that's my legacy. I want him to see me just go, and not take care, like I want to take care of myself, but like it's really hard for me to not feel guilty about taking time off.
And that is one of your opportunities for growth, right? We all have opportunities for growth. So you've got this area that you've created mastery and a level of mastery, right? Which is disciplining yourself to do the mundane things. And the mundane things that you're talking about in real estate is lead generating, because without lead generating, there is no business.
Period. And scripting's a really tough one too. Yeah.
So those are the things that no matter what, and if we look at it through a different lens, which is the lens that you mentioned, which is when I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, I've created a nick in my self-esteem. The weaker my self-esteem becomes, so does my confidence, so does my posture, so does my certainty, so does my belief in myself, so does my ability now to go out and generate the kind of business that I want to generate, because I'm bringing a broken down person psychologically and emotionally to a business that requires so much energy and confidence and clarity in dealing with people and the dynamics of what you deal with as a real estate agent, which is, I mean, social work set you up for in many ways, right?
Yeah.
To be able to go into real estate because of some of those dynamics are so similar. So if we change the lens and we look at it through that frame and say, what are the things for me to be doing that are going to get me the outcomes I want? You've got that with your health. So like, here's what there is for me to do. It's your training and it's your nutrition. And so every day you get up and you do that, and you do that as a way of keeping your word to yourself, which, yes, is it good for your health? Of course. It's good for your physical health, but for your mental and emotional health, you're now creating a currency where you're building this muscle of self-esteem. And within yourself, you know that when you say something happens, it's going to happen because you deliver on it. So now you take that into your business and you go, okay, what are the key things that no matter what are always going to be important in real estate? And that is going to be the most relevant current conversation, and how to language that, the scripting to be able to influence the way people think and behave as a result of the way that you communicate. And then number two, the amount or quantity that you're doing with the consistency of lead generation. Celine and I were on a coaching call yesterday, actually being coached and talking about, this concept of lead generation, and like, look at, if someone's focused on listing, let's say like you're getting listings in the marketplace and there isn't a listing appointment for that day, well, then 9 hours of your day is lead generating. It's like, oh, that is really simply awful.
Yeah.
Like, you can look at it that way, or you could look at it and go, okay, And those activities done over time consistently may yield a result down the road, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. However, when the results start to come in because of the consistency and discipline that's happened, they come in not one at a time, they come in handfuls at a time, right? So, what is your experience with what you've seen with creating, like, I like to say, no shit, no kidding. So, if you don't like that word, pretend I didn't. But you've got this like cadence, right? And so what have you noticed that clearly the market continued to shift over the years? And if you keep this one thing the same, the disciplines the same, talk about what your experience has been as it relates to your business for doing that as a foundational thing.
So there was a time where business was really easy and I didn't have to do a whole lot, but I still did the basics and I still contacted my database. I still wrote personal letters. I still wrote text messages that said, hey, just checking in, or happy home anniversary, or all the things that people don't really want to do. That just happens to me naturally. And my son will even say, like, you just really kind of know who to call. And I'm like, no, I really have a Rolodex of people, and it's really my top 50, but a Rolodex of people that I go, hey, I haven't talked to them in 2 or 3 weeks, and I'll text them, or I'll set an appointment, because there are some people who I only meet with once a year or maybe once every 2 years because they're so busy. But I literally have stuck with making the calls to my spheres, my monthly newsletter, the things that people don't want to do. Have really brought me the biggest outcome. No lead source, no nothing has brought me more business than it's been in simply picking up the phone and returning calls, which is really crazy. But I know realtors, they get peopled out. I get peopled out, and you don't want to answer your phone, and you don't want to, but I just have to. I just do, and I see the name and I pick it up. And I do get those calls at least once a week, and where somebody's like, hey, we're thinking about, or hey, we thought about you because our cousin's moving in here from Germany. Hey, and those, I just do the little things, and my database helps me do it. But I really, in my mind, when I'm driving, am constantly thinking of who I haven't spoken to or who I need to speak to. And I often pray, Lord, bring me who you need me to help today. That's just, I do those things, but like the little bitty things in those little bitty habits that I've created have really brought me great results. Now that it's been really rough, and I will say this, honestly, it is 3 times the work for a third of the pay, because I honestly am like doing way more work than I have done. And it's not that it's just not coming to the table. It's just harder. And it's really building my muscle back up, because I did get complacent and I didn't have to work as hard. And I'd been in the business for 19 years. And now going into it and having really good people around me where, they keep me accountable to do those little things, and I'm doing them. And it's not easy. You're not going to want to do it every day, but you can't beat yourself up either. So the self-talk has to be really positive. Don't talk about yourself like that. And I have to tell myself, hey, you're fine. Everything's fine. You did what you could today, and you're going to be okay, because everything always works out. It's your self-talk that you get going. I'm like, I step in shit and it smells like roses. I say that all the time. I've said it since 2005. And it's been great. Like, I don't know where I'm going, but here it is. And oh, whoops. And then it's like, but it's doing something and getting in action. I think that makes a difference.
There is magic in the motion.
Mm-hmm.
As long as there is motion, magic can happen. It's when there's no motion that nothing can happen. You said something that was really, I don't know if everybody caught it. I put it in the chat. You said, no other lead source has brought me the amount of business that I have brought myself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a mindset and a very different way to think about real estate. And it's a very empowering way to think about real estate, because what it says in essence is that you can be as busy or not busy as you choose to be, and that it's up to you, not anyone or anything else. And what I hear that as is taking 100% responsibility for you, your life, and your business, and that it is not dependent on anyone or anything else. And there is no limit to what you can actually create. the only limit, somebody, I don't even remember who I was talking to. We were having this conversation a few weeks ago, and it was this idea that every single possibility already exists. Every single solution already exists. Every single possibility already exists. And then what we do as human beings is we will come in and we will create limits on those possibilities. And we will create, based on our own perspectives and our own filter of how we view life, we'll come in and chop it all down to make it a smaller version that fits into what we feel is real or possible for us. And that makes it our reality, but it doesn't make it the reality. The reality is there is infinite possibilities and all of the solutions already exist. And so what you are, what you said something else that is, I think, really key, and that's after you've done something for so many years, which you have, motivation only gets you so far. And then it's really this idea of discipline. And so you have a different element in your business over the last couple of years than you've ever had before, which is your son working with you. And so that has created, it's like when we're really excited about something, and I know you've built companies and you've built businesses, right? So when you were with Keller Williams, you had a leadership role there. You're with EXP and you have self leadership there and have built an organization there. And when you go to an event in the community with a person that's not yet been in the community or to the event, you see that experience through the eyes of the brand new person, and it reignites like what you actually have in front of you and the possibilities that exist, and more importantly, who you're in the game of life and business with, and a visceral experience that's different than if you don't have one with you that's seeing it through their eyes for the first time and you looking at it from that context. So it's the same thing now in real estate, and you hinted about it, but you've now got your son in the business with you. And so that completely changes, like, oh my gosh, am I doing my lead gen? Am I not doing my lead gen? Am I doing my scripting? Am I not doing my scripting? Am I, what am I doing? Because now you have everything being seen through the eyes of him who's looking at you going, this is what it looks like to be a successful real estate agent. And so for somebody that doesn't have their kid getting into the business with them, what are some ways or some ideas that you may have around what someone could do to create that kind of that kind of, I don't even know what I want to call it, that perspective of like, oh, I'm going to up my game, I'm going to step it up because there's more on the line here than just me.
So this is interesting that you say that, because when I was going through, when he was in college, I was like, it's got to be, I can't, he's my why. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And then my father passed away, and then, Rick passed away, and I was like, I can't do it for this reason. And what really stuck with me was, what kind of legacy do I want to leave? Do I want a legacy that says that I was just mediocre and didn't try and didn't push myself and stayed in where do I want to be? And if you get people to focus on their goals and where they want to be, but creating a legacy is totally different, because it doesn't have anything to do with business. It has more to do with character. It has more to do with where you want to see yourself, because I'm tragically flawed, and I want to get rid of those flaws. And you go, okay, well, what will help me do that? Well, if I just think of I always think of like my obituary and what I want it to say. And I know that's morbid, but we're all right. We're one day closer to dying every single day. And so I don't think that it's like morbid. I think it's like really beautiful if you can start painting a picture of yourself and what you want to see on your tombstone. What do you want your legacy to be? Do you want your legacy to be somebody who went hard every day and actually helped people and did things and did better for their profession? Or and you don't have to do all those things. Being a kind person is a great legacy. I want to be a great legacy. I want it to be in the little things. I want it to be like how I made somebody feel, and I wanted to be like, she pushed me to do this. And it's always shocking to me when somebody says, oh my gosh, you work out so much, and it caused me to go work out. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, wait, what? And so I'm like, well, then I won't stop, because I get mad at myself. Like, should I post this? Should I not post this? But then I'm like, I might have one or two people watching, but somebody that's watching that says, hey, you made me go work out today, and I felt so much better, and I'm doing this, and I'm eating better. And it's just that little thing that I did that I think that people pick up on. And I'm like, okay, well, it's a legacy. Like, so if you don't have all those huge pushes or whatever, like think about what you want your in life to look like, and make a little tiny habit that pushes you that direction.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing today really going to get you to where you want to be? Is what you're doing right now. And that's how I think about it.
Yeah. And I mean, you commented on one of my posts recently. You said first you make the decision and then the decision makes you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that word decide means death to all other options. So if you think about, like, if you break that up, decide, homicide, suicide, pesticide, death, right? Death to all other options. First you make a decision and then that decision makes you, because it is death to all other options. It's like, oh no, this is what I'm doing now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for someone in their real estate career, it's like, if this is what I'm going to do now, and this is where I am committing myself, and it is my decision to do that, you make the decision and then the decision makes you. And how it makes you is through all of the disciplines that will be required long past when the motivation goes away to continue doing that. And then these things that happen in your career, I mean, like, that is an incredible amount of loss between your brother, your dad, and Rick in, a 9-month span, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so those kind of shakeups are going to happen for everybody in life that has them look at their life, and that includes their career and what they're doing in their career and the lens that they're viewing that through. And for you, that has been something that's helped you now create a whole new layer of passion that is tied to your legacy, which is in the advocacy work. So talk a little bit about, like, how that came about, the transition, and what that is, what's that meaning for you at this stage in your career and your business, and what that could mean for someone that hasn't been in the business 20 years right now today.
Right. So I wish that I would have gotten involved more at the local level when I first got into real estate, but I was so into that next deal, the next transaction. And I waited really too, because I was sharing my time with not wanting to miss one of my son's ball games was one thing I really prided myself on. And so like I didn't have a ton of time, but when my son went away to college and he was literally 10 minutes up the road. I know it sounds dramatic, but when you have somebody who you wake up with and go work out at 5 o'clock in the morning every single day, and he's your sunshine and he's everything, like, yes, my husband is great, but my son was there every single day and he was my big why. And I did everything. I wanted to put him through college with cash. And like it was being done. And then you look up and you go like, oh, I need to find like what makes me happy. I had to really concentrate. Is selling real estate at a very high level making me really happy? And I knew, because where I came from in the social work aspect of it, that it needed to be something different. So I needed to make it about my colleagues. I needed to make it about the people who we serve. I needed to make it about doing for others who can't do for themselves. Like, those are the things that really fill me up. So I needed to fill my cup. And I got involved at the local level and at the state level almost simultaneously, but it really worked out great because it was leadership, and then it helped me be on the board. But to be in these little committees that were doing big things, and they were doing things like helping the homeless and working on ADUs getting passed in Oklahoma City. And I know that this is a crazy concept, but like, yeah, ADUs really need to be passed in Oklahoma City, and that's a fight that we're having for affordable housing. And then also for my heritage, my Hispanic heritage, I wanted to do something that filled that cup but also helped other people. And that's where advocacy came in. And it's a really, really strong point for me, because it made it more about serving my profession that's given so much to me, and being able to give it back and like figure out how we can preserve the profession that I feel like is under attack right now. And it's given me a lot more purpose. And for any realtor that's brand new that doesn't see us being attacked, I'm so happy you don't see that. Like, I don't want you to see that, but they're getting a wealth of like, so it's so dismal what they're painting for these new agents, and it doesn't have to be that way. And working on scripting for these new agents so they understand this has always been the way it is. Do not freak out. Like, we're going to get past this, and I can teach you how. We can build them up. But for them to come into a business, especially my son starting now, I'm like, it's not doom and gloom. This is actually the way it's always been done. It's just, you just need to be sure of your words when you go into a room and you're talking to a seller. And, weak listing agents right now really scare me, but I feel like, you can overcome anything if you've been in the business and learn how to talk about it.
Yeah, there's a saying that good times create weak people. Weak people create bad times. Bad times create strong people. Strong people create good times.
That's a good one.
And it very much is tied into what you just said, and then layered over this idea of a career path that you walk, where you go from survival as a new agent who's like, oh my goodness, where's my next deal coming from? And somebody may be not a new agent right now, and just not have had the disciplines over time consistently, and be freaked out of like, oh my goodness, where's my next deal coming from? Right. However, there's these very specific chapters of a career where you go from survival to you're creating success, and you're in the success phase of your business. And then you realize, like, oh yeah, I put my kid through college all cash. That was my goal. And now check the box and it's done. And I've been in, the business over, 15, 16 years now. And like, now what? You have the success. And so you naturally move into the significance piece, which for you has been this advocacy work, where in this next layer of career you get the true connection to legacy, and now that internal feeling, that motivation, that drive, that hunger, that doesn't necessarily stick around for a lifetime in the career of real estate, right? And so it's like clear to me hearing you talk about your story, like, oh yeah, she went from survival, which is what every agent does, into a level of success, whatever you want that success to be. And now in this phase of your career in significance, while you've got a son who's like in the survival part of it because he's new into the industry, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
in your significance chapter and your connection to the advocacy work that you're doing, it's not only now impacting you, it will impact the agents that are in your business and that are your partners, right? And have an accelerated and a ripple and a trickle down effect, because now for you, this is a next layer of personal leadership, which everyone who's in business with you tends to benefit from, because of that reach and because of that impact. So, what we're talking about really is something that I know you and Rick must have talked about so many times, because it was a topic of our conversation always, is that we are, as people in life, in business, in health, in relationship, in our spirituality, in contribution, we are always in growth or decay. There is no middle ground of like comfort and I've arrived. That is an early decay where things are decaying, right? And so, like, finding ways, and sometimes life will do it for you, like, oh, okay, here's three people that you love dearly, and in 9 months, all three of them will be gone. And sometimes life does that for you, to go where you look inside and go, oh my goodness, what is my legacy? What am I doing? What lights me up? And where can I find that? Right? Out of our deepest wounds come our greatest gifts. And then some of that is just the natural progression of, of a lifetime of a career. And so it comes back to you being like an incredible example that if any agent wanted to get in the business, and not just get in the business, succeed in the business, stay in the business, continue to grow and evolve in the business, you have, by example, demonstrated such an incredible journey, right? And one that's not done, and it's not anywhere near complete. You're very much still on it. So, what I would love to do is open up the conversation for anyone that has questions that they would like to ask of you, clarifying things or things that we haven't touched on yet. Uh, if you'd like to do that, go ahead and just bring yourself off mute and ask away. I know there's at least one or two. Debbie.
Hi. So I'm sure there's a little bit of a roller coaster because this is real estate, right? There's your ups and your downs. How do you get out of your downward trajectory and go into an upward trajectory? What do you do to alleviate that?
So I start from, and this is, I actually do this, like, this is really a real thing because it happens, but I'll go like, who am I grateful that did this business transaction with me? Or who am I grateful for? And I will literally write personal notes, and personal notes, if I get on that tangent and I'm at that point, which I certainly have started doing it, but I carry around 3 note cards, and who do I need to say thank you to? And I thank people, and it might be for something that they did maybe 6 years ago. It might be for something that they did just yesterday. But what I try not to do is wallow in the sadness of like, oh God, I don't have anything going. And I'm like, I can compartmentalize really well though. So what I do is focus on the whole gratitude aspect. And I know that sounds so like superficial, but if you really get into who did something for me that I'm really grateful for, and especially if I'm thinking about business and I'm trying to like work on my business, I will start writing those notes. And those notes really hit people because they're not coming from I need business. They're not coming from what can you do for me? They're coming from I truly am grateful. I remember we went through this really bad transaction and it happened like 2 years ago, but I was just thinking about your attitude through the whole thing really held me up and made me want to continue to be a realtor. Like I do things like that, and it's intentional, but it's also off the cuff because it's authentic. And it's something that I'm really thinking about. But if you really, and there are other things that I do, I can get real creative. I got real creative in 2008 and 2009. And, I decided to have coffee with 6 attorneys, like a month was my goal. And because I knew people are always dying, right? So I would have coffee with these attorneys, and they were probate attorneys, and just see who clicked. I ended up clicking with 2 really great attorneys, and those attorneys at least give me 2 to 4 deals every year. And it's just not thinking like through a tunnel. It's actually thinking of like, if you got the piece of carpet that's in your bedroom and you just went outside and shook it and you just keep shaking it. Yeah, things are going to fall out because you're in action. So like I make an action and I know something's going to happen. And in my mindset, I'm like, I just have to talk to more people, and I can't be depressed in my room and sad and watch Netflix for 48 hours. Like you just can't do it and I told my husband the other day, I used to do a lot more things outside of the house, and I'm not because, we're not going to ball games. They're not going to this. But when I do go to ball games, I still don't want to talk to people now because I'm so peopled out. So I have to force myself and think like, hey, just stop and give them, 2 hours is all I need to do during a football game to be more, to have a conversation with somebody. But people just want to work with people like them. And if you're not having conversations, you're not giving people the opportunity to do it, to meet you.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
I love that. What you just said, Vanessa, reminded me of something that I learned recently that I did not know. And it's what happens when storms come in, like major storms, and cattle will run from the storm that's coming to try and get away from it, right? So that could be translated to in life, putting our head in the sand, checking out, just like totally avoiding, like running, right? And bison will actually turn the direction that the storm's coming and walk straight into it. And they get out of the storm faster because they've gone through it. And that is essentially what you just described, is like, it doesn't matter what you feel like, you get up and you keep going, and you do that regardless of the feeling, and the discipline of that, which is another discipline, will move you through and into a different space much faster than if you sat around waiting for it to pass or did something else. We have another question coming in from Katie. Do you have a conversation daily goal?
I used to, until the statistics came out. And the statistics came out and they said it went from 100 calls a week to have 1 transaction to 267. And I was like, whoa. that's too much for me to think about. So I stopped doing that and I started getting intentional about the people who I want to talk to. You know, when you start looking at your business after 19 years, you know who is referring you, you know who are your people. And I'm not saying it doesn't get any, like it could get probably convoluted, but I know who I need to talk to, and those are the people that I contact. But yeah, no. I don't have a daily goal. I have a daily goal of being in action. And that daily goal of being in action is just whatever way I can do it. If I can get on the phone or force myself to go to something public, which is I'm an introvert. I think I'm an extrovert, like reformed extrovert, but now I'm an introvert because of how much I talk. So I have to force myself. And I told my son, I get older and my anxiety kicks in, and I literally will talk myself out of going to a mixer with people who I know, love, and trust. And I don't want to go because I'm like, I don't want to be on display. I just want to just chill for a minute. But yeah, no, I just got to get in action, make myself talk.
I love that. Rick always used to say the best way to go into a networking opportunity is like, all you have to do is put your hand out and say, hi, my name's Rick. What's your name? And before you know it, you're like in a conversation. It's like, you don't have to think about what you're going to say. You just put your hand out and you say, tell them your name and ask them what their name is, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Any other questions? This would be great. Okay, so if there's one thing that you would say to everyone to kind of wrap things up, something that they could take away, Debbie, thank you. She said I needed this today. Thank you. If there's one thing that you would say that you could like wrap it all up in a bow and like not marching orders, but leave this conversation with, and either do or think differently and then do. That's going to create a difference in your business and in your life, what would that be?
So when I was really thinking about this, there's so many parts, right, of your personal growth that you go through. But when I came to terms with discipline being the ultimate act of self-love, it really was easy for me. It was like, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be tired no matter what happens at 5:45 in the morning. Just get up. And like, I literally will say that to myself, but like loving myself enough to do the things that I know are going to be better for me for the day. Because I'm a really good negotiator. And if I worked out at 5 o'clock in the evening, it wouldn't happen because I would negotiate myself. Oh, I walked all day and talked all day. And I've spent all those calories. I don't need to do that. But so I know what's best for me, and it's not best for everybody, like, because some people don't need to do it. But I know waking up and going to the gym first thing in the morning is so good. It's just like loving me. When I don't do it, it's me not loving myself. And discipline is making the calls when you don't want to make it, because I want to have the freedom to do the things that I want to do. And I know I won't have that freedom if I don't love myself enough to handle the little things in my business, which I know are so easy. It's just people don't want to do the little things. And I talk to myself. So being disciplined enough and seeing how it's just the ultimate act of self-love is getting it done.
The things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. Someone said.
Right.
So true.
I don't know who it was that he said, do the easy thing and life is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And do the hard thing and life is easy. Like, that's like, okay. Like, I think there was it Atomic Habits where he said that? I don't know. It was one of those books. And I was like, that's so easy. Like, nobody wants to push themselves out of their comfort zone because they just want to just stay and just be like, okay, let's go. Like, we can play realtor all day. But if you really push yourself, you are a realtor. So that's, yeah, eat the frog for sure, Debbie. Yeah. Like, I always say that, have the conversation, the deal's busting, just have it. Don't wait until the end of the day to do it. I am that one who was like, okay, let's just get it out of the way and go. So, and I love to work out. I hate it and I love it, but it's the thing that really pushes me to do everything else.
Yeah, there's definitely a connection physiologically between what happens physiologically when you are pushing your body in that way and strengthening it, and it happens to your mindset, your outlook, your mental health, your physical health. I mean, it impacts everything, right? So there is a, you know, a deep connection to that. That's how we're made, right?
Look at Cheryl Lister just chimed in. Boy, she's got little nuggets. You ever want to hear somebody talk? That's the one. When I see, like, I'll tell you, I'm proud of some of the stuff that I do, but when I look at the people around me that are so successful and really doing this business the way it needs to be done, like Cheryl Lister, Marcella Guerrero, all those people that like literally implement stuff that I'm like, and I can't say it's pride. It's them, but I saw it in them, and I'm like, it just makes me, it gives me goosebumps. I wish you could see my arm. It's like all pickled up, but like I literally, those are some beef. I'm learning from them now, so it's awesome.
And that is a beautiful thing, right? We create a community of people around us so we can all continue to learn and grow together. Comfort and success don't sleep in the same bed. I love that, Cheryl. Okay, well, there was one more question, and that is, do you have any book suggestions? And if so, which ones would they be?
So Atomic Habits is really good. That one stuck with me, a lot of the stuff. So emotional intelligence is kind of, I'm doing some growth, like inner growth stuff. So emotional intelligence is really good, and emotional intelligence 2.0 and emotional intelligence for the team. Those are some really good ones. And only because that's where the state I am in my life, like really trying to hone in on me and my downfalls and working on me and getting better every day and working on my personal growth, which I know I need to go to PSI. 7. I know that's my next step. I'm just afraid of what I'm going to have to do.
Well, it's paid for already.
I know.
It's a matter of
it's not the money. I already paid for it. I just got to go because I know what they're going to tell me to do. I did PSI, Katie, but I need to do size 7. So that's the one.
It is the present that you will not be able to even wrap your arms around for a long, long time about what a gift it will have been to yourself. So I know there's multiple people on this call that have walked that journey, and I still say it was the best week of my life, of any week of my life, second to the week that Rick and I got married. So it is. I'm excited. I'm excited for when you decide that is happening for you, and that it happens for you. More importantly,
it will happen. It's already paid for. It will happen.
And for those of you that don't know what that is, PSI is psiseminars.com is if you want to learn about that. It is a personal development company, personal and professional, right? It stands for Personal Success Institute. And the idea behind that is that we walk through life with our conscious mind that functions about 7 to 9 functions per second, and our subconscious mind that keeps us breathing while we sleep, have dreams that make us think it's really happening, and where all of our emotions and feelings and everything lie. And that functions over 7,000 functions per second. And the subconscious mind is what drives behavior, not the conscious mind. And so if you don't know what's happening there, that means you have blind spots, and you'll continue to create the same thing over and over and over again, even if it's not the thing that you want to create, because those are blind spots. And once you illuminate the blind spots, they lose their power and the way that they've had power before. And then you get some new skills and tools to be able to strengthen muscles that previously were atrophied because you didn't know they were there to be strengthened. So it's a really, if you're looking to, take what could otherwise take a lifetime to shift in yourself and accelerate that and have it happen a lot faster, and do that with a community of people that all have that same desire, it's a really incredible place to do that. It's the best place to do that kind of work that I know of. And it's not the same as reading a book or going and sitting in a class and learning something, because that is not experiential, and it taps only your reason and logic part of your brain. It does not tap the subconscious, which is where all change happens. So there you go. That is my 90 seconds on what that is for anyone that may want to do that. And there's discount codes if you do it. BAY, like San Francisco Bay, 200 will give you $200 off of the tuition of the basic, which is the first one that you've got to take to be able to do the advanced work that Vanessa's going to go do. She's already done the first one. So Great. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. We appreciate
Thank you for having me.
you.
Thank you
All
for
of your-
having me.
Yeah, all of your insights, your willingness to share. And I know that just based on the feedback that we're getting from people on the call, it was a huge value and benefit. So thank you for continuing to pay it forward and invest in your community. We
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me. Thank you for having me.
Make it a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.